CCTV Camera World is proud to provide support for products purchased from our website. If you purchased your product from another vendor, please contact the vendor you purchased from for further assistance.
So I have my ONVIF based IP camera right here. My config tool tells me that it's this IP address of 192.168.1.203. So this is an ONVIF camera. It's not one of our regular Avalonix cameras that we carry here at CCTV Camera World. So now I'm going to show you how to add it to one of our XVRs that we carry here from Avalonix at CCTV Camera World. So now I'm in front of my XVR connected to basically the HDMI out. So here you see my XVR, and I actually have a cable going into this PoE switch right there, and there's one cable coming out of the back. Unfortunately, I do have a mess. So you can see that green light, that's for the network cable coming out of the back of the XVR, and I have it connected to a PoE switch. One of those cables, the black one, is the one. So before you follow this tutorial, make sure your camera and NVR, or XVR in this case, are on the same network. Otherwise you won't be able to add them, because if they're on different subnets, the NVR is not going to be able to pull a stream out of the camera. So in here, this happens to be an XVR. So what an XVR is basically a DVR recorder for security cameras that has both BNC inputs in the back and also the ability to add IP cameras over the network. Here's a picture of what the back of the XVR looks like, and you can see that it has a lot of BNC ports, and this network port is what I connected into my PoE switch. And then I have an IP camera that I showed you before in the beginning of the video that's connected somewhere else on the network, but they're all on the same IPs. So here now I basically want to show you, if you are using an XVR, before you can follow this tutorial, you want to make sure you go into channel type, and this happens to be a 32 channel DVR or XVR. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, but I need to go to channel type and set one of the channels. In this case, you can go retroactively from the highest number down. I had to set the 32, and I had to check this, which was, I had to make it an IP mode, and then hit apply. Okay, so make sure you do that for each one of your channels that you want to migrate over. Like here, I'm going to do, if I do that right now in the video, it's going to have to reboot, which I'm not going to. So I already did channel 32, and I'm going to add an IP camera now that I showed you before as the last channel. If your camera happens to be compatible with one of our XVRs and you're lucky, it might just show up here on the list. So I showed you that my camera had an IP address of 203 as the last octet. I'm on a 192.168.1 network. I don't see that camera here, so that means it's not friendly enough to just show up as an ONVIF camera. So I'm going to do manual add, and then select the channel number first that I need to add it as. So I'm going to put it on the 32 channel, which I showed you before under channel type. And then manufacturer, you would select ONVIF, and then change this to the IP address of your particular camera, whatever you set your cameras to. If you don't know how to do networking, then you're not going to be able to connect a camera to the recorder because they're not networked properly. So make sure you understand networking, otherwise you can purchase networking sessions from us for third-party integration or for just for networking help. We do offer that as a paid service. So here, now I need to put in my password. So now I've entered my password, and I'm just going to hit OK. And you see the status light turned green. I'm going to right click and go to the main menu, and I can see that camera right here. So if I go into view 36 cameras, you'll see there is a 36 channel grid. Of course, the last 4 channels just tells you how much bandwidth it's using. On the last one here, you can see it's using between 5 to 7 megabits per second, or 5 to 7,000 kilobits per second. I can double click on the channel and watch it in full screen, and I'm getting pretty good live video out of it. Now keep in mind, like for instance here, it kind of frame skip. This all depends on the compatibility of your camera with our XVRs. It has nothing to do with the XVR itself. If you have intermittent frame skipping or something like that happening, unfortunately that's what happens with ONVIF cameras. When you try to bring them in and try to use them with XVRs from other parties, it's just going to happen. And it's part of also just IP technology. Something has to do with the camera. So this is a budget end camera, and this is what you can expect from that when you're integrating it over ONVIF. That's why we always recommend buying cameras from us that are guaranteed to be compatible with our recorders. And we carry different series of products, so you want to make sure you're getting a directly compatible camera for your recorder that's either an XVR or an NVR. And that's pretty much it. So you got your video connected. And now to dig deeper, if for some reason when you switch from this full screen view to basically, let's say, a 36 channel grid and you don't see video here for some reason, it's not appearing at all, it has to do with your main and substream settings that you would have to toggle and test out by going into main, camera, and code, selecting the channel that you have. Now if it was a directly compatible camera, one of ours, then you could just basically change these settings here. But because this is over ONVIF, those settings are not going to get changed. You have to go into directly the IP address of the camera and then change them there and figure out which settings on your camera work best with the recorder you're using. Unfortunately, there's no magic pill for this. It's something that requires trial and error, and that's why we always recommend making sure you use a directly compatible camera with your recorder. So this guide also applies to basically our NVRs. If you're adding that same camera over the NVR, over the local network, it would be the same scenario, exactly like what I did here. Hopefully you find this video useful. Thanks for watching.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.